Welcome to The Reading Rift, a bookish podcast. And as a warning, this is an adult podcast with adult language and adult topics. And this is episode 8, Some Call Me Eve. And this week we have a guest author,
Pike. Yeah, so let's get into what I stalked you on the internet with, okay?
Love it.
You got Pike. She grew up in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. She swam competitively. And then she went to Texas A&M, got a degree in English. Then she was like, that's not it for me. I'm gonna do more. And she went and got a master's degree. Where did you get your master's degree at?
The University of Arkansas.
Okay. And then you were like, I'm just gonna casually write a book and get published. And then you were like, I'm also gonna go to law school. So you're just over here doing all the girl boss things. Yeah,
that's right.
Okay.
It's crazy to me because how did you make these decisions? Was it just kind of was it like a childhood passion dream, or was it like, I'm just gonna do this thing because it came to my mind?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had a general path of where I wanted to go in my life, but long-term career, long-term goals, those were vague. I just know I wanted to be a girl boss in some way.
Okay.
So,
check.
You know, it just kind of went as it went. I actually started my degree at Texas A&M was in computer science, and within a year I was like, no. And then I did English thinking I was gonna be a professor, and then I went to grad school thinking I was gonna be a professor. 2 weeks in was like, well, this isn't gonna work. So I had to just keep switching gears.
And that's just how life is though.
Exactly.
You end up getting better places than you thought you were gonna get, but also it's stressful because you're like, I don't actually know what I'm doing.
Right.
But that's so cool.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I wanna know about your history with books. So what are your earliest memories with reading and writing? Did you always love it, or was it kind of something you grew into?
So I've always been a reader. I loved reading from when I learned to read. I needed a hobby that was very relaxing, but also really intriguing for me. Swimming was definitely one of my passions growing up, but it's much more intense. It's something that's always a love-hate relationship, and swimming really has shaped me just because I swam competitively from 4 to 21. It was a big thing. I swam for Texas A&M. I am an All-American. I'm an Olympic trials finalist. That was my life. So really my entire first 21 years of life were guided by swimming, purely. The decision to go to Texas A&M was for swimming, pretty much all of it. So reading and writing was just an escape for me, something that I had on the outside, and I had this desire to write from a very early age. So I'd write these stupid little stories, and I'd try and show them to my parents or anybody, and it was kind of just oh, nice, good job, but it wasn't. Yeah,
because everyone's like, I want to be I like writing, or it's that's such a cute hobby.
Right. They're like, oh, good for you, but focus
You're
on school.
Well, actually, I actually am good at it.
Exactly. I was like, I promise you, I have potential, and everyone's just nodding and smiling.
Yep. And then boom, I got published.
Yep.
So look at that. What is your when you were growing up? What was your go-to series that shaped you? I feel for me, it was the Little Fairy books.
I think is that the name of the series, Little Fairy, or is it a fairy-ish
it's
series?
It's a Little Fairy series. The books are this big. They're chapter books, and they're just about different fairies. And I feel I was so cool in those books. So those shaped my love for reading.
Yeah.
But I think for you, it was Magic Tree House.
Oh, when I was really little? Yeah, it was the Magic Tree House.
Yeah.
That's probably where I started too. I think when I was ooh, this is my genre, is when I found the American Girl books.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I was I got 5 books from the woman in the revolutionary times, and then 5 from this time, and then I also found the Dear America books, which were the journals of historical fiction.
I read those.
I think I read those too growing up. You know what?
I think I was addicted to those for a minute.
Yeah. I will say I've gone to used bookstores and bought some of them purely so that when I'm high I have something to do.
You're this is better than when I read it as a kid.
That's actually so valid.
Right. I'm when am I going to enjoy it more than when I'm totally relaxed in the moment?
Exactly.
Nostalgia.
That's so great.
It's actually really good.
When did you notice that there was a shift for you from I like writing and reading, I like it as a hobby, to this is something serious for me?
Yeah. I think that I toyed with being an author my whole life, thinking, yes, I'm going to do it, and then, no, it's a bad idea. My parents are my biggest supporters, but they also really wanted me to stay on more of a stable path, which was I thought I was going to be a doctor forever, and then I was I don't like science, so it kind of went in and out, and so I was really pushed to go the lawyer track. So for me, it was okay, there's these professional goals I should have, but then I really do have these personal like dreams that I want to pursue. So it was this push and pull my whole life of, should I pursue it? No, it's a waste of time, but I love it. No, you should focus on like things that you'll actually succeed in. So I kind of was living that way for a while, and then right in the middle of my degree at Texas A&M, I kind of just said, screw it. Like, I want this and I want to pursue it. So I started writing. I was more of a poet in college, so I did a lot of poetry. I started doing some short stories. I submitted quite a few.
Well, there's some poems in here too, like the character poems. I love those. Those are really good.
Yes, and when I was telling like my friends here at Utah, I was like, when I write, you have to understand I have like a poetry base, and like,
I literally saw that in the writing.
Yes,
literally.
So when I write, I like hear it in the form of poetry, and I'm like, but that doesn't beat well, and like, so yeah, poetry is my base. I tried to start like playing with some short stories, had no success there. I did a couple creative writing classes in college, and I don't know if it was my professor or what happened, but I was not given good feedback almost ever. So I got to the end of college and was like, all right, it's just not going to happen for me. I'm not good enough. I need to go a different path. So instead of going for the MFA, I went for the Master's of English. And so I started my master's, learned that it wasn't going to work. I was going to have to go to law school. And all I'd heard all of my life was, law school is going to take up all your time and it's going to be your life.
Right.
So I knew that these dreams that I'd been playing with for forever, they were either going to happen in those 2 years I was in grad school, or they were never going to happen. So I decided to stick with my degree, and no offense to anyone out there who's done a master's degree in liberal arts, but it's the easiest thing ever. I had so much time to myself, a ridiculous amount of time. And I was teaching at the same time, so I taught like freshman students and took classes and had all this time. So I spent every waking minute that I wasn't doing school stuff writing. And one of the hardest things for me was noticing that I couldn't stand anything that wasn't perfect in my writing, so I would immediately back away. So like in college, I had started like a couple chapters of a book that I was interested in writing and always gave it up. And this time around, I didn't want to give it up, and I had all this time to do it, and I knew it was my last chance. So I chose the story that I had in my mind forever that fell more in a romance/erotica genre, so I didn't feel like it was so serious, so that I could just keep writing, and when it was not perfect in my mind, I could be like, don't take it so seriously, nobody's going to take it that seriously. And then I finished it and I was like, oh, I took it super seriously. So
yeah, you're like, I can't not, it's my personality.
Yeah, so it was kind of this is my last chance if I don't want to play around with it anymore.
I love that you did that because, well, she's a writer, so she's finished her first draft of her first novel like a few weeks ago. So, and my husband's a writer, so he's finished a couple of novels, and they're like working on the process of like the next steps of once you finished it, what the heck do you do? Yeah. But both of them kind of had that same of like, well, that's how she's a writer. I don't want to talk for you, but like you kind of have started a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
But you just get like, it's not perfect, and then you like kind of.
Oh, I'm definitely more of a perfectionist in my writing, because like I know your husband, he's my brother. He's just like, I'm gonna write a bunch of stuff, and then once it's done, then I'll look at it, and I'm over here like, ooh, that's rough. Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it's very hard. I'm a perfectionist for sure. I didn't do it in my first book, but in the one I'm currently writing, it takes me, I maybe get 30 minutes to an hour a day, and I might get through 4 sentences. Like, it is so particular. Like, if it's not the right word, we're scratching the sentence. So I feel you.
Okay, I want to ask one question before she's going to go and ask some questions about writing. But I want to say, because you met your fiance when you were at A&M, and I want to know what his input is on loving someone that's writing a book, because I am married to someone that's written books, and it's just sometimes he gets in the zone and we don't talk very much. And then he's like, read my chapter, and I'm like, okay, I'll read your chapter, and then like I start giving feedback, and he's like, never mind, stop reading my chapter, I need to go like work on it again. Or so how have you found that experience to be, like having someone love you in this season of like trying to be a creative writing? What has that been like for your relationship?
Yeah, I'd say that my experience is probably much different. My fiance is not a reader at all. Like, I try my best to get him to read my book, and he's like, we'll get through chapter 2, and he's like, it's just so long, I can't do it. And he like kind of knows everything already, so he's just like, do I want to read it? The last thing he'd ever want to read is romance, so he's kind of
so real for that.
He's the guy sitting on the outside cheering, but he's not like like in the weeds. Exactly. But for most of the time that I was writing this one, I was in my grad program in Arkansas, and we were doing distance at the time. He was still at A&M, so he was supporting me from afar, but most of that
was good then. It kept you distracted.
Yes. I would not have finished the book in the time that I did if he was there, because I had
like way distracted.
myself.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, go ahead. You're gonna ask some questions.
Yeah, my paper's over there. So yeah, I'm gonna ask questions more about the writing process itself. But so you kind of talked about that you've been writing your whole life, and I'm kind of right there with you. So my thing would be, because growing up, I kind of get the whole like writing to escape and stuff. But when did you start? Kind of decide, okay, you bounced back forth with the idea of being an author, but when did you decide, okay, I'm going to be an author, I'm going to actually publish this book?
Yeah, I think it was that moment when I knew that my next step was going to be law school.
Okay.
And knowing that it wasn't something I could play around with anymore, that if I wanted to call myself a published author, which was something I'd always wanted to do but never really committed to yet, that it would be then or it would be never. So it was kind of like a time crunch situation. Now I say that, and then I wrote the book and realized, what the hell was I doing? That's my dream. And now I'm in law school and still doing it wherever the time is, because I'm like, I'm not giving this up. However, yes, at that time it was, your time's running out. And if it's not now, it could be never. And then I would never want it to be never.
Yeah, I get that. That's kind of where I was, because I also just kind of entered this position of like, I don't write a book right now, it might not ever happen. So I kind of relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
That feeling when it hits, it's like, you gotta do it.
You gotta do it.
When I asked what kind of author, what kind of writer are you, like when you start a book or do you start your writing process, do you have like a plan in your head, or do you just kind of like hit that paragraph, hit that page and start writing, and then you just kind of like halfway through the book and you're like, oh, I know what I'm writing now? Like, are you discovery or do you plot?
So think of every trait that you can of someone who's type A, and then you have me. So I outlined it 3 times before I even started putting words on paper. And I mean, I had a very specific process for writing my first book. My second one is kind of different, but I had 5 drafts of every chapter before I moved to the next one. And I had a full outline before I outlined chapters specifically. Like everything was a little bit of a more specific outline until it was in paragraph form. So for me, it was outlines on outlines on outlines, but I know other people will do it like, let's write today and see what happens. Yeah, that's not me.
Because I've heard like some people, like they are just outline, or some people are just discovery, and then you have like the middle. You're saying you're like, you're just outline.
I know every single detail of what's going to happen in my book before I start putting a pen to paper.
You know, that is understandable, because I would find myself in the middle, but sometimes you just have the outline and then you start outlining. Do you find when you're outlining though, that when you're writing you discover things?
Absolutely. Like more intricate details I feel like come to me in the time of writing it, where I'm like, ooh, that would be a cool like little comment to be made because it'll like reference back, or I like this because it's kind of symbolism of like religion in this spot, so you can kind of see a theme throughout. But those littler things may come to me as I'm writing it, but definitely like the plot itself, and even like the character arcs and how their personalities are developing over time, that's something I have planned.
That's amazing. To me, I think that is some of the best like things I've read, is like when you can tell like the author has like planned it, but like those little poetic moments where it's like, oh, you know, that was like, I feel like I can tell when an author's done that, because it's like, oh yeah, you know that came to them and they put it in there and it just made the story.
Those are my favorite things to go back onto in my own writing and anyone's writing. I'm like, ooh, I remember when I thought of that moment.
And then it's just like when I'm writing,
so cool.
I feel like when I'm writing too, and I feel like that moment hits me and you put it in, it's like, oh yes, I did that.
And then it's probably even better when someone reads your book and they like point out that moment and you're like, yes.
Yeah, my very first ARC review, they put their favorite quote on the top, and it was my favorite quote, and like I just instantly cried. I was like, somebody sees.
It's like, thank God, I was trying to get. Yeah, that's great.
That's amazing. Okay, and then this question is probably like a little self-seeking, because like, what was the revision process like? Because that's kind of where I'm at. Because you mentioned that I did just finish like my first book, and I'm starting my second just to kind of like get more understanding of how I write. Because like I've, like I said, been writing my whole life, but writing a book is a little different, and I think you could probably understand that. So when you finished the book, what was the revising it like?
Yeah, so when I finished, so each draft I did, or each chapter I did like 5 times, so it had been heavily revised before. And then I finished it in, let's see, I think like April 5th of 23. So
Okay.
I was like a month out from finishing my grad degree, and I had finished it, and I knew just from reading and stuff that I needed to wait a little bit before I dove back in, just to come at it with fresh eyes. So I didn't look at it for a month, and then I went through a chapter a day that summer, like revising it just a little bit. I got some feedback from a few beta readers. I had like 3, and then 2 of them were my mother. Or at least, like, you know, one of them was my mother, another a family member, like only close people to me. And at that point I like kind of tweaked it based on that. And then I finished it in July, and I, you know, gave it up. I was just sending it around, and only when I got an editor did I start touching it again. I left it after that.
Okay.
After you had gotten an agent and then an editor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the kind of what I'm excited for, is like the revise, then just like dump it on an editor. Like, please help me.
Yeah, and I don't know what everyone's experience is. I had a very unique publishing experience. So, yeah, I think everything's different, but I wouldn't know because I've only published one. So,
yeah, and that's fair to say. Like, I'm sure the next experience you have with publishing is probably going to be different.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, for sure.
And then, if you want to talk about the publishing, how that went.
Yeah,
Start from your querying and then from
because I know she's her and her husband are going through the querying right now.
Yeah,
so
it's the worst part for sure. When people ask what the worst part is, it's the waiting. I waited longer to hear back and get a contract than I did writing it. It's just sitting around waiting for it. At the point where actually the last place I sent it to, I told my fiance and my friends, I said, if this doesn't pick up, I'm going to shelve it for a while. And I might self-publish, but I don't have the money for that right now. So I'm just going to have to put it away because it's just too heavy. Like I can't, because it's a desire that I have that's just not working out. But so basically, at the end of July of 23, I had a query letter, I had my sample pages, and I just started sending them out to all of the agents of the authors who wrote books that I felt like had similar vibes to mine. So like the author of Outlander, the author of, oh God, what's that one? Achilles, the Song of Achilles.
Oh, yeah.
She has yet to read that.
It's on my to-be read list.
I've read it.
Yeah, my query letter, I say that my book is a mix between Game of Thrones and Song of Achilles.
Okay.
How I vibed it.
I could see that.
Yeah, so those kind of agents I was reaching out to. I got one of them to respond and ask for the full, and I was super excited. They read it, and they just didn't get it. And I knew that going in. I was like, I am writing a very out of the norm book. Most people are not going to get it, and that's okay. And I had to come to terms with that. So then I started sending it to like a buttload of other agents. No responses. I started going on just like agent websites, like anyone that had romance by their name, I was sending them my book. Probably sent it to 30 more, none of them. Nobody asked to read the whole thing. And at that point, it had been about a year and a half. And I was like, it's not good. Like, nobody's going to want it. And I mean, I'd been so distant from the book for that amount of time that I was like, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I can let it go and just be like, I wrote it, cool. And when I was in grad school, at the end, I was like, hey, I'm thinking about publishing. Maybe I can use, I'm in an English degree. Maybe I can use my resources. So I had a few alumni from Arkansas who had published books, and I contacted them and what's your advice? And one of them had been published by the Wild Rose Press, which is a smaller New York publisher. And I wanted an agent. I wanted to really try and get a main publisher, but at that point it was if it's on paper, that's amazing. So I went ahead and used their contact. I emailed one of the editors at the Wild Rose Press and was like, hey, I know this person. I know they talked to you about me. Would you read my manuscript? And they were like, yeah, they would. So they read it. They liked it, they sent it to their editor, they realized, oh, it's actually not fantasy, let's back up and send it to our historical fiction editor. And then, so it had to go through a bunch of stuff. And then I think 2 months after I handed it to them, I got my contract. And at that point it was this is probably, as a first-time author, it's so hard to get published, especially traditionally. So I was like, I have to take this and run. So yeah, that was the process.
That's so cool.
That is amazing. And,
what I love is that how long it took you. And I feel like, so this is when my husband and I were talking, and he's like, I have to make this work. I think the difference between people that write a book and want to be authors versus people that are authors and get published is they can do the waiting. And that's like the hardest part of like, it's your heart and soul, and you're like having to keep getting rejected or like no response, and like it's so hard like mentally. So you have to have that strength to like, I know this is good and I have faith in it, and I just have to find the person that sees my vision, and it's going to take maybe several years. So it's sometimes it can happen overnight, but realistically,
I feel like
it's
when
a
you have
journey.
that poet heart there, it's like, I don't know, it tears at it. Because I also like write a lot of poetry, and I've read a lot of poetry through my life, and like I've taken like courses like how you would get better at this. And it's like when that time weighs on you, and it's just like you don't want it to be ripped out of you, but it's like
I'll say my timing was perfect because I finished editing my book, and I think 1 to 2 weeks later I started law school. So I had a great distraction. Like I was law school, your first year is like a 60-hour-a-week job. So I didn't even have time to think about editors or anything like that. So having law school going on was a great distraction. I mean, all the time I was like, be nice if I could get, like a publisher right now, like, or an agent. That'd be cool. And
add to the adrenaline. Add to the adrenaline of everything going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I did want to ask on one of my last questions for this is the, I guess the big reason, but like, why do you write? What was the spark through the childhood, but not just like, I know like the motivation to be an author is because like, I don't know if this is the same for you, like you want to share the stories and you want it out there, but like, what is the initial, like, why do you write because I know like the escapism and everything is, but do you have something else in you that's like motivating you to do that?
Yeah, I'd say what came first was the stories, and I felt like there were like desires that I had and like goals that I had in life, but nothing weighed heavier on my heart than like a really good story, and one that I just knew and couldn't stop thinking about. Some Call Me Eve and a few other of my attempts at novels, both were dreams. I woke up one night and was like, wow, that would be interesting. Now, Some Call Me Eve took 5 years to like transform that into a workable book. I was like, oh, that's not right, and I had to work at it, but I woke up and couldn't stop thinking about the story, and it was just on my heart, and I was like, I need to tell this story. So it was like almost like an innate urge that I had. Then when I started getting older and like fell in love with reading and fell in love with words, it was then the desire to write something beautiful and to have just this beautiful language. And I was always compelled by books that had like really compelling like words and the way that they could strap sentences together, and that's just something that I wanted so badly to do. So all of my attempts at poetry and writing, it wasn't even like at that point telling a story, it was, can I make people feel the same way I do when I read that? And then mixing that with a powerful story. So it was, one came first, then the other, and then it was like, now I have these stories to tell, and all I want to do is give it in the most beautiful way that I can.
Well, I can tell you, I felt a lot of things because I read a lot of books recently, because she'll throw books at me, and then I'll also be reading my own books, and sometimes I'll read a book and I'll be like, most of the things I'm feeling is annoying because like, I don't like that. But I read this book and I was like,
a lot of books have really good stories.
Yeah, they have good
but the writing is just like,
I'm not feeling anything,
which is fine. Like, I think that's fine. There's different types of books for like different types of moods.
But then I was reading this and I was like,
but the writing
I don't like what I'm feeling right now.
But speaking of it, so let's transition into Some Call Me Eve. So this is the warning where we're going to talk about spoilers. So if you haven't read the book, you should stop here because, wow, there's spoilers, okay? But I want to just ask you some questions. So I want to do like a game of, let's put your characters in modern day society. Okay. So I'm going to ask you about Rune and Evangeline and what they would be doing. Okay. So if they're in modern day, 2025, what would Rune's career be in modern society? What do you think his profession would be?
Is this pre-Evangeline Rune or is it post-Evangeline Rune?
Let's say, we're gonna say they're both alive. They've been together, but they're both alive.
Okay. So post-Evangeline Rune without the ending.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I feel like he'd be like a college art teacher. kind of like a chill guy.
I kind of feel like community college art teacher.
Yes.
You know, like intimate with the students and like.
For sure, but he doesn't feel like he needs to be the breadwinner. Like he does it because he loves it, but he's okay just having that as a hobby and also being kind of the homemaker at the same time.
Trophy husband.
Yes.
Okay, what about Evangeline? What do you think she's out there girl bossing doing?
Oh man, Evangeline, she might be like a pretty intense lawyer or maybe a like a firefighter. My parents were firefighters growing up, and my mom always tells me stories about how she was like the only firefighter woman that was in training, and she literally had to do like her final exam 8 months pregnant, like all this crazy stuff. And I think that's super badass. So something like that, something that takes guts the whole time.
And maybe something like non-traditional of like,
Yeah, no, for sure.
what are you doing here?
Right.
Right.
No,
And she would be top of the class.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So we know that Eve wasn't really a big fan, or Evangeline wasn't a big fan of the dresses and the girly stuff. So in modern day fashion, what would be her go-to wake up outfit?
For sure. If she's like wanting to look nice, then she's gonna wear like baggy pants, like those like
Wide
fabric.
leg or the like the linen or
Yeah, those that are like work pants, but they're not tight. They're baggy. Like you got those baggy pants. and
long
then
legs, boss girl.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And then like a real tight top. Like I'm kind of wearing it, but like something like tight on the top.
Anyway, there is a very specific like two-piece Zendaya wore one time, and it was like a black like vest thing. It was tight on top and like the white baggy. I'm picturing it.
Yes, like a pantsuit that's like super baggy pants, and then like a tight strapless top.
Oh yeah, for sure. I see that. Okay. Okay. So Rune, he's getting some courage. Okay. He's got access to modern day resources. Okay. And he's like, I'm going to take her on a date. Okay. What date is he planning to try and like, you know, set himself up for the best situation with Evangeline to impress her, but like,
I feel like his best bet is that let her plan it.
No, I was gonna say, I feel like I don't even know if Evangeline would be wanting to go on a date. She's like, oh, what now? If she were to let him take her out, I'd probably say, have you guys been to the Thieves Guild?
I've heard of that.
So it's downtown. It's downtown Salt Lake. It's a bar that's actually medieval themed.
I've gotta
I
go to
like
this.
it just because it's like really dark and moody, and you're just in
It's
there.
like the vibe.
Yeah, she wouldn't want anything like fancy. She's good if it's grungy and she's like in an atmosphere where she can be herself.
With the people, you know?
Right, yeah.
I gotta go to this. I've never heard of this.
It's pretty cool, and they even have like drinks that change each season that are like in fancy glasses, so it's super cool.
Okay. Okay, now I want to say about Ingrid. Okay, so let's say she's our villain in this story, but let's say she's our villain in real life. Okay, what is her modern day draw to power? Is she like political power? Is she like fame power, financial power? What is her like modern day villainhood look like?
Yeah, I can see a political villain, but I'm pulling more towards CEO of some like really big Fortune 500 company where she doesn't care about anything
Morals,
except
like an oil
getting
company.
money.
She's like top of there, like we
Or
will
like
spill-
tobacco or something like that. Yeah.
I see that too.
Devil Wears Prada movie, just insert her there.
Yes, that would work.
I want to talk about your world building.
Okay.
So, because she writes fantasy, my husband writes fantasy. So you kind of, in those books, you're like building a world from scratch. I want to know why you chose a medieval time. Like, do you have like a history with passion for that, or you just like kind of worked with it? Or so why did you pick that era to put the setting for your book?
Yeah, I think that medieval literature, I just feel like there's not much of it nowadays. I've read a few things that are kind of medieval and didn't really like them very much. I cannot do fantasy for the life of me. If it has magic in it, I'm immediately out. Like for my book club, if they're reading fantasy, I might do it for them. But other than that, if it has magic, I'm out. And usually medieval stuff or like medieval-esque worlds are magic. So I hadn't really gotten to dive into that. So there's that. And then also completely contrasting what I just said, I really love Witcher. Like, I loved the Witcher series.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
The Witcher's hot, so that helped. But also just like the world of The Witcher, oddly enough, I got into it from the game. And I'm not a
Same,
gamer.
that's literally what she always
does. She's like the game is what made
My brother
that
will
for
talk
her.
about the series, and I'm over here like the game.
Yeah, just meet the game. Yeah, my dad had it, and that was the one game I played, and it was just like the medieval world was all I wanted to be in. So I was like, this is so cool. I wanted like know more about medieval times, and it just seemed like a really cool setting. Even though I'm sure the people in medieval times would be like, it's not cool at all. But that's kind of that's why I decided that. And then also, in my dream, it was like a princess prince situation. So I was like, okay, well, that's not really going to work any further down the line. So, and I was thinking about if I could make it modern day, but then I was like, it's still not going to work. So kind of the concept was
It would be a little bit
naturally
more
medieval.
like cheesy contemporary if it was like
Yeah.
modern
Yeah.
setting of like, there's not the pressures of medieval times of like, we don't have modern medicine, or like we don't have cell phones, like those things.
Exactly.
I want to ask about your names, like how you chose names, because when I was reading it, the name of the kingdom is Vitalia, right? Okay. I'm thinking of the word like vitality or like life, or so I just want to know if like I'm reaching, or if like you put thought into the names that you chose for the characters.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that when I was making the names of the characters in the kingdoms, Evangeline I knew out the gate. Like, I had planned before I started writing this to have my first daughter be named Evangeline. Like, that was just the name I was ready to use. But the other ones were more of like almost like half of me was just coming up with things and seeing how they sounded, and the other half was like using AI to come up with a bunch of random ones and see how I felt about them. Rune took the longest, for sure. I had no idea what I wanted to call him, because he had to, I mean, he's so unique. He had to have a name that fit his vibe. And so that one I probably like played with AI for forever, and then just saw random words in a book. I don't even know how I ended up coming to Rune. But when I heard it, I was like, that's it. And I don't think it was even someone's name. I think I just read the word somewhere and was like, it's gonna be a name. And so that's how I used that. But for Vitalia, I think it was more of either that was a word that came to me, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, like that matches the kingdom too. So that works well. But definitely I was going for names that fit their characters as best as possible.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was like, that person's named Bob, and that's really weird.
Yeah.
It was like, it fit in all of their names kind of like meshed into a community of like in a time frame. So I think you did a good job with the names.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I want to go into detail of the female main character and the male main character a little bit. And I've got some like quotes to read for things that like, I was like, this was like a moment for me when I was reading it.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about Evangeline first.
Okay.
And so this is in the beginning of the book, when we're kind of learning about her preferences, okay? So this is page 51, and so she says, sex is holding power, love is about losing it, and that is a risk I would never take. If someone like me were to fall in love, I would not only lose myself, I would lose everything I have ever worked to gain. And I think that a lot of people kind of do feel like scared about the power they lose when they're in a relationship, or and not just romantic relationships, but like friendships and family relationships too, of like, you feel like you lose part of yourself sometimes in relationships. And so when I read this, I was like, I really, really hope what the author does here is we don't see like a pull between the two love interests in a way of like, it's bad for them. I want to see how in a relationship, the right relationship is you both become better versions of yourself. And so that's what I was hoping you were gonna do. And that I feel like that is what you did, because I feel like both of them grew so much, and they just grew into better versions of who they were meant to be. And it wasn't like any unnatural changes that happened. They like forced to change to be because of the person they loved. It was like, we're together and we make each other better in our own ways. And we're whole apart from each other, but also together we make each other better.
Right, yeah.
Would you say that's what you were going for, or am I like reading into it?
No, absolutely. My book is about women who have great potential and power, and how they can live with that, as well as men who support those kind of women. And you see that in Evangeline's father, King Ricard. He was one of her only supporters, and the same as with Evangeline's mom, Genevieve, he knew what it was to step back and let them reign, to let them be the full versions of themselves that they could be. And nobody was allowing Evangeline to do that except her father. And because of her father, she was able to not only be that person, but grow further into that person. So she knew that if she were to fall in love with like a traditional man and to do marriage and all of the traditional things, that man almost undoubtedly would not be supporting that lifestyle that she wanted for herself.
Right.
So when the whole point of having Rune come in and her changing that was realizing what it was like to be with men who support women who are like that. Women who have big dreams, have big goals, and they want to feel love and they want to have relationships, but this desire for success, this desire for being something greater is more than that. So they're willing to risk the relationships and the love that other people are having because they don't want to give that up. And obviously in medieval times, that really was a one or the other decision.
Yeah, and especially in like a queen princess situation, it's like the role, it's already decided what you're gonna be, what the situation is gonna be for you. So yeah, I really, really like that in your book. So thanks for doing that. I also thought it was important to this quote was because it's where she's starting. She's starting with like, we get the nice stable scene and we're like, whoa girl, you do you, okay? and then I'm like, what? Because I'm like a Shadow Daddy fan, you know, we love a broody brew.
I do not.
So I'm like, I haven't really read a book where that wasn't the male main character's vibe. And so when I'm meeting Rune, I'm like, I'm not liking this, but I'm really curious to see where these two grow.
Stoked.
Yeah, I know.
So
she was a big fan of it. Yeah.
I'm not a Shadow Daddy hater, but I am.
Yeah. Time and place for Shadow Daddy.
Because I picked up this book because like I remember. So we went to Lag and you were like telling me this book and I'm like yes, because I was like I'm so tired of this like I'll kill anyone for you. Shut up. Because no, you won't. Because you're not going to. No. And so I started reading this and I started like getting to know the characters and I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah.
This is the kind of book.
Most of the time, like at Lag or at any of like events I do, when I explain it and I'm like, so she's the one with power and he's not, most people laugh. They're like, yeah, no thanks.
Yeah.
And I knew that, you know, I knew that going in and, you know, it hurts to hear that, but also like I knew going in this was not going to be the vibe for most people. I tried to do research for this book and I might have found one that claimed to be a femdom, but it wasn't really. So I was like, I'm going to kind of have to invent this genre. Yeah. So I kind of just had to wing it. But yeah, I knew that was when I knew that I was ready to write the book. Was I had the idea of the general story of the enemies to lovers and how it would develop, but it just wasn't working. And then all of a sudden I was like, what if she's a dom? And it all clicked. And I was like, that's it. That's how this can be a story that breaks into the modern day. Because if I just wrote a traditional princess story, nobody's going to read that. So that was what made her who she was.
Yeah, I really got that. And what I liked about it was, I think sometimes maybe when people hear that, they're like, is it going to be like hating on men or hating on women or hating on different types of people? But I really think you didn't do that. I don't think you hated on any preferences or anything. It was like, this is the situation for Evangeline and Rune, and this worked really well for them.
Right.
And this is a possibility for life. Like if you feel like this in your life, then, you know, keep searching type of thing.
And I know you're gonna like go like further down the quotes, but like the way you like from the get-go all the way through the story and like the growing with the characters and their relationship with each other, it was just like you wrote it in such a way that it was like, I'm sure like more people that are just going to come into the story, it's just going to be like almost like for me reading this was like so refreshing, because it was like you're not getting this like overwhelming Shadow Daddy, and you're not getting this character, like this female character who's just kind of like, I'm tough and strong, but like also like
right.
It's like this actual like I'm tough and strong, but I also have issues and like struggles and like because life is life.
Yeah.
It's not about necessarily what my gender is or like what I see in life. It's just life is life, and I have struggles.
Absolutely.
And so it was like an amazing story. So
thank you.
I like you said the word refreshing. That's what I said in online. I was like, it's not like a trope. Like you have enemies to lovers, but like sometimes I read a book and I'm like, I love a tropey book. Okay, I'm all here for that. And this is not complaining about that. But I really felt like this was not tropes. It was like you call it like arc versus a trope. This was arcs. Like this was like people growing, and it was stories, and it was very refreshing and something I've never read before. Like you've said, I've like really never read anything like this. So another quote, this is Mary talking, and she's like, people are more than they seem from the outside. We can only truly know who they are if we let them show us. And I want to know why you wanted to put this theme in the book. Like, has there been like times when you really felt like people were judging you, or why was this an important theme that you wanted to like start your book with and really kind of set the scene for Rune to come in the next chapter?
Right. I think I relate a lot with the struggles of Evangeline before everything went down. I think that being somebody who everyone looks up to you, but you also have desires to do more, and you're just very self-motivated person, that you feel like if you're going to find happiness outside of yourself, then you have to kind of lower your boundaries a little bit, and you're gonna have to let other people in. And that's something that can be hard if you've grown up learning, when I let other people in, they take my power. So figuring out that middle ground, and honestly more of a sacrifice, which I think I used that word too, but it was, there is an amount where it's not worth the sacrifice, but sometimes it is. And Mary is in the point in her life where she's like, look, the sacrifice was worth it for me. Obviously I don't have as much power as you do, and I don't have as much that I'm losing, but there's more than just them taking. You also are gaining, and you just have to find the right person. And
And I love that she's like, not a chance. I was like, I literally hearted it. I was like, oh, what's about to happen? So I was like giggling at that. Okay, so then when we get to like chapter 23, this is when she like lets Rune take charge in the bedroom a little bit. And I was like, I was so nervous. I was like, is this gonna be like a moment where she's like, no, this is done? Or is she gonna be like, you know what, I'm confident enough in like our relationship that we can do this? And so I was like freaking out. I was like, what is gonna happen here? And so, but I love that for Rune's character, where he was like, he had been building his confidence little by little, and then he was like, I'm gonna express what I feel about you. I think, like we've been saying, like as a powerful person, or someone that likes to be in control, and you're nervous about having someone come in and like wreck everything you've built. I love that for this moment, Evangeline was like, you know what, I'm confident enough in everything that this is fine, and I trust you, and this is good for us. So I want to know about why that was an important arc moment for her from your perspective.
I think that a lot of this story is fighting your own desires and trying to fight against what you truly want. And it feels kind of contrary to Evangeline's character, because she is unashamedly herself, and she knows what she wants, and she'll go after it. But as you learn at the beginning and learn further down the line, what she wants even deeper than that she won't let herself want, is something deeper. She wants something that she can feel a real connection with somebody else, in the same way that Mary and Arthur were kind of showing to her. But she would never admit it to anyone, not even herself. So in that moment, obviously Rune was like, I'm going to stand up and express that I have real feelings for you, but also like the sexual desire that I have. And in that moment, it was not only that I kind of want something deeper out of Evangeline, but her hidden desire was, maybe I do want to be not the person in charge for once. Maybe I do kind of want to sit back and let you be the one that expresses your love. So it was both of them kind of letting down these guards that they had held for so long, so tightly, that they were like, I'm comfortable with you enough now that I can finally say, here's what I truly want, and let's start to explore that together.
Yes, I really, really liked that. And I just feel like I loved Rune's confidence arc, which we'll go talk about next. But I also loved, like, I didn't finish the story with thinking like Evangeline ever gave up anything. I really felt like she figured out the boundaries, and then she really was able to grow more from having the relationship with Rune and intimate like friendships with other people. And I feel like that made her a better ruler, because she was able to navigate that growth of lowering her boundaries a little bit. Okay, so about Rune. Okay, 198. I was like literally screaming. This is when they're at the like religious ceremony. I don't actually know what was going on.
It was like a mass church service.
Yeah, okay, and they're like standing in the front, and it was like before I could change my mind, I slipped my hand into Evangeline's, and I was like screaming. I was like, she's gonna pull her hand away. She's for sure gonna pull her hand away. And I was like, but you go, Rune, for like,
oh my gosh,
confidence.
When I read that, you know, like, oh, this is like really the Vine where the girl was like.
Yes. I thought she was gonna do that, and I was like, I'm just so here for Rune's confidence arc. Like, I didn't know how much I was getting invested in that. But then when like she didn't let go, I was like, good for you, Rune. Okay. But I want to talk about Rune's confidence arc of like, man, he started this book in a low place. His mother was not.
To be fair, he was good, and he didn't want to be like his mother. He was doing his best.
Yeah, he was.
He had been beaten down, okay?
Yeah.
He started in a low place. And I loved his entrance of just like, I've never met a male main character like entrance like that. And I was like, this is so weird, but I'm so here for this. So I want to know why you wanted his like introduction to kind of be like that, and why that was important for the arc that you were setting up for him.
Yeah, to me, the sexiest thing that I could have is, I mean, I knew Evangeline was this badass in the bedroom, and I wanted that, but the sexiest thing was for a man to be in Rune's position, like so like humbled and quiet, but he's so attracted to her power. He's so attracted to her being a badass, and no part of him is like, I want to dominate that. It was, I want to be dominated by that. I love how powerful you are. I love how much of a badass you are. So it was this inevitable attraction of, she's like, I want men who want me to be in charge, and he was like, I want women to be in charge. So for him to be that way.
But not Ingrid.
He was like, I agree with you.
I did get halfway through writing the book and go, oh my God, my main male character has mommy issues. But
oh yeah, major mommy issues.
yeah.
So I loved Rune's like the way he started, and I loved the little bits of confidence that I love that he didn't just all of a sudden have confidence like that. I love it was a natural little flow, and the scene where she's teaching him how to use a sword, and they're like dueling, and I'm like, that was so cute.
I love that confidence. Honestly, I love that confidence was part of his like character development, because that to me was like, yes, get your confidence.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things too, was it wouldn't keep going, and people wouldn't be attracted to Rune as like a character if he didn't have some growth. Like, he can't be like a zero forever.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things too, was he wanted to be like not the one in charge. He liked the power that Evangeline held, but Evangeline didn't want him to stay that way. Evangeline was like, you can be great too.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yes.
I'm better, and fair enough, but like, I don't want you to like be at the bottom. Like, you also can be a badass, and let's do it together.
The most refreshing thing is that like what you're saying is like they are actually equals in the end. Well, man, they were not, because
was there.
But, yeah, they were equals. Like in the beginning, and when like their relationship like really flourished and like they came together, is that they were equals.
Right.
Like, they both wanted to flourish together, but they had such good understanding of each other that it was so healthy. It
wasn't like ever like a battle between I'm the queen, I'm like the queen's consort type of thing. It wasn't ever like a battle of that. It was like when Evangeline was like, you can come step up and be king with me, like equal with me. I was like, that's so beautiful for her to accept that she can trust Rune enough that he's not ever gonna like murder her in her sleep so he can take the kingdom like his mom did, but like that they could be partners, like, and like support each other. And I think that's why I loved his arc so much, because he didn't just stay at the bottom, and that Evangeline, like, even though she didn't say it to the end, but she did love him enough to be like, I want us to both grow together.
Yeah, that's why the coronation was so important, because obviously it was this dream coming true for Evangeline of, I've wanted to be a sole ruler with nobody else like pulling me down. I wanted to be that person, and she got that. But over this arc of this whole story, she's realized that she doesn't want Rune to not be part of it. She still wants to be the queen, and there was a reason that he wasn't given the same ceremony. But it was more of that end of that chapter was more of a symbolic, like, hey, you're going to be part of this ruling family as well. Like, you are part of this. And it was also kind of a moment to kind of like redo their wedding that wasn't really great at the beginning. Like, it was just a show, and that end scene was something more of what she would have wanted that to look like.
Yeah, and I think okay, so she's a girl bossing away. I've been in relationships and friendships where I maybe have someone that I'm kind of like dragging along, and that's not an ideal situation either for someone that has really high goals. And so I think it was crucial that Rune grew with her and supported her in her growth, even though she didn't get to grow very long, but because like eventually she wouldn't have been satisfied if he just was always like, yeah, cool, whatever, no ambitions. So that he was able to have his own ambitions and still support her ambitions, I thought that was beautiful. And his ambitions were really just to support her, which was so beautiful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, when he first said, you know, you're Princess Evangeline, you can do anything, I was like, yes. I love that he said that because she was over here having a hard time. And she kind of was on like, this is the crux for her of like, this is hard. And he's, instead of being like, you know what, let me handle this for you. Let me take care of this for you. He was like, you are who you are and you are strong enough to do this. And that was, for me, was like, that's beautiful for a relationship, because like we sometimes want people to just solve our problems and take care of us. But for us to really grow to our next level, like to level up in life, we have to do really hard things. And when someone that you kind of care about how they perceive you, if they are like, I believe you can do this, all of a sudden you're like, you know what, you're right, I can do this. So I just love that's all he said. It wasn't like well, let me see what I can do. It was like you can do it.
Right.
That was so beautiful.
Right. Rune is a character, and the reason that she lets her guard down around him is she can tell that he sees all of her potential and doesn't try to find reasons to pull her down or to be like, well, she has that flaw, and that makes her not as good as like she thinks she is or whatever. He sees all of it, just like her dad did, and was like, I can see this, and I know you mostly see it, but when you're in those times where you don't know, we see this, you can do this. And that's why that moment was so important, was because he was like, nobody can do this other than you. You are the only person that has the experience, that has the bravery to do what we're about to do. And he is not going to be able to do anything. And he knows that she's more than capable of doing it. So it was, I mean, it just goes with the arc of men supporting those women, and not in a way of, I want to take more power, but stepping back and humbling themselves and being that pedestal.
And I feel in a way he did step up too, in a way of like, okay, she needs me to be confident right now in this, so that she can move on and do the next step of what she needs to do. So I felt like he was like, you can do this.
Yeah. And I mean, she needed him to grow in order to be brave enough to do what he did to start the entire revolution.
Oh yeah. When he said retribution, I was like, wow. and that's when I was like, I think they both rubbed off on each other in the best ways. Like he was still him and she was still her. But when he was like grinning kind of mischievously or whatever, however you beautifully described it, he was like grinning and he was like retribution or whatever. And I was like, that was like kind of an Evangeline vibe moment for him. And I loved that because I was like, she's rubbing off on you in like the best ways. And then I was like, I think he's actually rubbing off on her too in the best ways of like, she's still who she is, but she like finally has a place where she can feel safe to kind of explore other things.
Right.
So I really loved that it was both of them growing and they kind of just made each other better.
Right. He definitely taught her how to be vulnerable. And I mean, obviously she taught him a lot, and that was one of the big reasons that he was able to step up in the end, was he saw how she was stepping up to his mother and said, I want to do that. How are you doing that? I would never be brave enough to do that. And the fact that you're doing it, not only am I attracted to it, but I like crave to have that same ability.
And I want to talk about, why did you choose to make your characters so the opposite of like every trope or like every stereotype?
Because it's better. Obviously.
But, like, you know that would be hard to sell. Like from from a writing perspective. So why were you like, you know, but I think this story is important enough that I need to do this?
Yeah, I think it was that for sure. I think not only do I not read fantasy, I don't read romance, and I don't even consider myself a romance author. The rest of my like planned novels that I want to write have no romance whatsoever. But I think a lot of what I wanted was I was like, if I'm going to have a romance arc in my book, then it is not in any way going to be like giving the man power at all. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I think that, as I said, that was kind of the big decision for me to write the book, was if she can like totally go against like female stereotypes, and like they do that a lot in literature now where you've got some badass women, but like if it's a romance too and you keep that in the relationship, then I feel like that's a romance that I'd want to write. This is the kind of like unique story that I'd want to write. And honestly, I think it's more about, I've grown up and I was this like go-getter. I was always focused on my work, what I wanted to do, and I scared the shit out of men. I did, and nobody wanted to date me. Nobody wanted to talk to me. I didn't have like a real boyfriend until I was like 16, and it lasted like a month. Like nothing was working well because I was just intimidating. And you know, I got to the point where I was like, either I need to accept that I'm not gonna like find a relationship, or I'm gonna have to like tone myself back. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. So it was finding somebody that was willing to see like my goals and my intensity and my personality, and not only appreciate it, but love it, that I was like, oh, I don't have to give up. I don't have to give up one or the other. I can have both. And I think one of the reasons I really wanted to tell Evangeline's story was to, I mean, obviously if you're young, you're not going to be reading this, but like, don't read this. But
not for minors.
Young adults. Okay. For young adult women who feel like I was feeling, of like, am I unloved, or have I not found the right person, or am I unlovable? To realize you can have both. You can be who you want to be and not have to give part of yourself up in order to find somebody to love you back. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that kind of story was out there, because you never see it. You never see stories that are telling women, hey, keep being a really big badass, because there's probably men out there that like that somewhere.
Yeah, and I think what's so beautiful about your story is it wasn't about like, oh, I'm the badass female and everyone else is below me. It was like, I am the badass female and I have a lot of relationships that make me stronger and they support me and I love all of them. And it wasn't like a
you
negative
are lovable. Thing. That's I think the important part is like that she was lovable in the end, and she was like this really like important, and she never like toned herself down. I think that you don't have to tone yourself down to be lovable. And I think like I also just want to say like, because like you wrote this book, so it's like I wish there was more books out there like that, and like write more, please. Because I totally feel that. Like I've never been in a serious relationship. I have felt that like through my teenage years, is like the too intensity, the stuff. I joined the Marine Corps, and it's like that does not add to the fact that like, oh girl, yeah, you're a lot. And then now that I'm here, I just moved to Utah and I'm a veteran, and it's like, where does that make me stand? And it's like, yeah, I don't see a lot of books. You get a lot of books where you are a badass female, but then like that shadow daddy comes along. And he like tones you down for you, and it's like, that's not how that works. So yeah, I definitely, like when I say this book was refreshing, it was like, you don't tone yourself down. Definitely not for a man. And because that's not how that works. And yeah, it's not necessarily for a man either. It's like, because when someone loves you, it's like that there's a balance. You're not toning yourself down, you're not changing yourself. You find this balance with someone you love. And that's like, that was like so refreshing to read. You're not changing yourself, you're bettering yourself.
And you're realizing that when you find the right person, you're like, oh, what I love isn't the stereotypical man who does all of the stereotypical things. What I love, and I learned it as I found them, is finding someone that supports me, and that support is what I love out of them. So I don't need you to be the caretaker. I don't need you to be the breadwinner. I want to do that, or I can do that. What I want is for you to adore me for it. Adore me for who I am and what I want to do, and not feel like you have to somehow step up and be above me. You can, if that's what happens in life, and I'll be here for you either way, because we're at the point where I love you and I'll do anything for you. But I need you to be okay not being the most powerful part of this relationship.
Okay, one quick question about Queen Ingrid here. Why was it important for you, or for Rune, or for Evangeline, that they spared her in the battle scene? Obviously for the plot, it was important for the plot, but for like the character, why was that an important like strength moment, or why did you choose to do that? Because I was not happy.
Right. I mean, obviously plot was number one there. I knew the ending before I started writing it, so I knew that had to happen. But I also think I tried to make it in a way where Evangeline's like dream at that time was to slay the shit out of this woman, to just martyr her.
Understandable.
And when it came to that time where she could finally do all of the things she wanted, she sacrificed that because she knew how much it was going to hurt someone else. And I mean, she didn't know that it was going to hurt him, but he's just seen so much. And like, even though she was awful to him, I mean, there was still like the blood bond, and she didn't want to be the cause of more pain in his life. He had already been through enough, and she didn't want to hurt him anymore. So if that meant that, I mean, under her belief that she was still going to be leading her kingdom again, she was going to get this woman out of here, but she didn't get to do the gory murdering that she wanted to do, then she was willing to step back and let that happen.
Yeah, it was a strength moment for sure. Yeah. Like mercy is hard to do sometimes,
right.
Like to step up and be the bigger person. And I think what she did do is gave Ingrid the choice to grow. She did not, but like it's like she was like, I'm gonna let you decide what type of person you're gonna be. And she chose to be not a good person. Because then we got the end of this book, and that was my thoughts on the end of this book were, I did not see that coming. Okay.
You know my thoughts. I came to sign the book on your counter. I was like, read this right now.
But I'm going to ask you why you felt the need to do that. But I want to say that I thought it was beautiful. And as someone that has daughters, and I love the way my husband is like so beautiful with my daughters. And the ending of that book really was emotional for me, because that's how I would want things to go. I would want my husband to like just nurture their potential. And that's big for both of us, my husband and I. We're like, we don't want any boundaries on our kids. We want them to feel, we don't want them to lose their confidence that they have at this young age. Like, they're rock stars, and I'm like, I admire them so much with their confidence in life. And I'm like, I don't want the world to ruin that for them. And I want to like let them grow, but it's hard to watch them go out in the world and like do scary things. Like she wanted to fight with a sword, and he was like, yes. And I love that moment, because he was like, I gotta let her do it. But it's hard to let someone you love do something that's like risky. So I thought it was beautiful. As coming from someone that has kids, I really was emotionally involved in that whole thing. And then like Evangeline doing her bear mama moment of like, she's like, this is it. I would give anything to save my beautiful girl. So I want to know, why was it important that you wanted to make sure that they had a daughter? And then why did you let her die and that moment happened?
So when I was trying to think of the name for this book, I really wanted to use the word dynasty, because I felt like the whole theme was this dynasty of really powerful women who ended up being raised by men. And didn't have mothers in their lives, but had to have men that stepped up and said, I'm gonna be a girl dad, but I'm also going to be a badass girl dad. I'm not gonna push them and make them go into a certain like gender stereotype. I'm going to let them bloom into whoever they are. And it became clear through Genevieve, through Evangeline, that they just had this strain of like go-getter attitude women. And which is why when Evangeline died, she told Rune, I know who she's gonna be. She's gonna be just like
the same
me.
thing her mom said. It was so beautiful.
And you have to be and she's not gonna have a mom. She's not gonna have me to be like, do it. Do everything you wanna do. So you have to be that parent who says, I want you to be as much as you can possibly be. And I'm gonna support that in every way that I can. So it's almost like she had to die, because that was the dynasty, that was the fate. The fate was these women who become complete badasses, who become these really independent, unashamedly themselves women, but completely supported by men who want to see them become those kind of women. So it was more of it was just kind of felt like fate. Like I have a lot of people that give me bad ratings because of the ending, and I'm like, okay, cool. But then I have people that, like my friends, who are like, I still think you just shouldn't have ended it like that. Like, why? And I'm like, I can't imagine another ending.
It was so crucial for Rune's arc, too.
I think, okay, I want to say to that, I think that it was perfect ending. Obviously I was like, no, but it was the ending that sold the book for me. Cause like I was loving the book, but when it ended like that, it was like, because I told you those chapters emotionally tied me to the book. Because like I was loving the book, I was loving it, and then I read those like the ending, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this book. I'm saying like, oh yeah, of course I didn't want to end like that, but like that was the ending. Like that was it.
That is what it is, right? And again, it's like that circle of fate. Like, this is really hard to explain. It might be woo-woo, but I feel like when I write my stories, it's always not linear, it's circular. Like you end it and it could start over in the same spot because it's circular. It's not like you start here and you end and that's it, but it could continue to rotate. Which is why I feel like when I end the book, you go straight back to the beginning because it was so beautiful. You start it over again.
It was like the exact situation set up with Evangeline's life, and like her dad has said the same things. It was so beautiful. So it crushed me, but I do agree that I think it.
Of course, really, it was like one of those like throw the book like no, I didn't end like that. But it was like it had to end like that.
I mean, I told my mom when I wrote chapters 31 and 32, I was crying for days. I was like, I lost her, she's gone. I'm like, I did it though.
I killed my main character. And I love that it kind of, I thought it was crucial for Rune's arc to like really solidify how much I really love him as a character, because he had the choice to fall apart, and he was close. He was doing it. He was going to fall apart because his life was Evangeline, and because she like was a dominating force in his world, but he had to choose if he was gonna let it break him, or if he was going to be strong for his daughter and
be the boss girl dad that he was.
Yes, and he rose to the occasion. And when he said like, Princess Sky, you're Princess Sky, you can do anything, and I was like, wow, that was a work of art. Good job.
Thank you. Well, first of all, what do you want readers to take away from this book? So like, you kind of already touched it, but like the ending, what you kind of touched, like it's circular, but like what do you really want readers to take away from the book?
Yeah, I think that a couple things, that women who have strong desires and strong passions and just innately more intense women, that they don't have to lower themselves to fit into society, whether that means just like socially or romantically, that they can be absolutely 100% of who they are. That's important. And then for men, it's what we need is men who see those women and push them up more, who are the ones that stand and will hold their feet while they're standing, and if they're starting to fall, they're the ones that help them out. And that doesn't mean that they have to lower themselves. That doesn't mean that they have to be lesser than. When I wrote this, I almost dedicated it to my dad, because my dad is a total girl dad. He was one of the best supporters of women as a man that I've experienced in my life. And really, when I wrote the King's character, it was really shaped on my dad, because it was about men who are able to see women who are strong and love it and want more out of them and support them in every way possible. So yeah, I think that I want women to know that they can be everything they want to be and more, and men to know that we need your support to be those people, that we can't just do it alone, that we need at least one person to be there holding us up, and it would be great if it was somebody of both genders, for sure.
I love that. I already said that. I love that so many times, and I think that's beautiful. Like I said, this book was refreshing, and like just hearing that is like, obviously I want so many more books already. Like, give me them.
I want to say about specifically your writing. Then now that you said you have a poetry like love, that makes so much sense. Because I want to say even like the spice parts. Sometimes you read a spicy book and you're like, it's okay if you're into this, but sometimes it's a little cringy or sometimes it's a little like,
Yeah, it's hard.
a little too much anatomy or just things. But I really felt like everything you were writing was just like poetic and beautiful, and the writing was high quality. Like it was obvious that you're put a lot of care into the art. So the story was great, and I really do think the writing also was great with it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, but what's next for you? Are you going to keep writing books? Obviously, you've got to finish law school and do all that stuff.
Yeah, that's
but
my
what-
thing. Like, I want more. So I want to know what's next.
Yeah,
what are the
so
plans?
as I said, Some Call Me Eve was definitely a big story on my heart, but it wasn't like number one. It was one that I felt most confident that I could do because I felt like it kind of had the simplest like storyline that I could stick with. The story that I truly have wanted to write, now that I've written one and published it, I now have the confidence to do it. So my new book is called Wildfell.
Okay.
It is, I'm an English person and got all of those degrees because of my love for the Brontes. Jane Eyre started me, and I don't know if you know, but there were 3 Bronte sisters. There's Charlotte Bronte, who wrote Jane Eyre, Emily Bronte, who wrote Wuthering Heights, and Anne Bronte. Anne Bronte was the lesser-known third sister. She wrote The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and in its time, it was actually as popular, if not more popular, than Jane Eyre. But because it had a character that was an alcoholic and seemed to reflect on their own brother, Charlotte Bronte told everyone not to read it, so it kind of fell out of history.
Not sisterhood. Not sisterhood.
No. So it kind of doesn't have as much history to it now because people stopped reading it because they were encouraged not to. But it's probably the best Bronte novel. And I've read it multiple times. And the first time I read it, I was like, what if this happened? And I knew that was like the story that could change how people see Victorian literature. So I am retelling The Tenant of Wildfell Hall in a psychological thriller.
Ooh,
That's one of my favorite genres.
Okay, cool. Let's keep us in the loop on that. So, thanks for
I'm
coming.
gonna be stalking your Instagram.
I know. Well, obviously, it can take a while, but like,
obviously.
For some reason, this time through, I'm not writing on my laptop. I'm completely on paper. So I'm like in the
very
middle
vintage.
of notebook
Typewriter.
number 4, and I'm still writing in it. I would say I'm kind of outlining, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like just literally writing it.
That's exciting.
beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really fun. I'm loving it. I say this to people when they're like, what are you doing now? I say, well, Some Call Me Eve is my baby and I will love it forever. But Wildfell is what I was born to write. This one I feel like will be, if I take off one day, I really feel like it'll be Wildfell.
That's so exciting, actually.
So yeah.
I love hearing that. That's like, I understand that feeling. It's like, because I'm writing stories right now that I just came up with one day, but like I have this baby in the back of my head too. Like it's like that's what's going to be like my story. If I ever publish those books, those are going to be like, yeah, so.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like I had to wait until I was ready to write this one. And I felt like once I got this one published, I was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to write this story and I'm going to do it.
I'm stoked.
Awesome.
I'm so stoked now.
Well, thanks for coming and
Thank you for
sharing your
having
information
me.
with
It
us
was
and
so
your
fun.
knowledge, and thanks for writing your book. And I think that was like, I think it's important for people to know that they can be a creative person as well as, you know, a life person of, you know, you went to school, did all these things. You're also a creative person, you're going after your goals, and like it's important to tell the stories that come to our heads.
Yeah.
And whether that's in all different ranges of you get published or you self-publish or you just share with people in your family, I think stories are like given to us. Like you said, you had dreams and you just like had this urge, and like I really think that that's an important thing, that we share the stories that come to us. And
Absolutely.
the art is important for how the world
And passion
goes on.
And clearly
So-
you have that. You're showing it. So
Yeah, I tell my friends, I'm like, writing is kind of like being a medium where you like sit and you wait to hear it. And you're like, I know it's in there, and sometimes you just have to wait, and then finally it'll come. And sometimes I'm like on the toilet, I'm like, wait, I'm ready, and then I have
That's
to
what
like
the notes
jot it
app is
down.
for.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thanks for coming. And next week we're going to be going over the book Enigma. So tune in for that.
yeah, you compared me to the character, so I'm
Okay, don't say that out loud.